kind of musical interpretation you're giving. It's really kind of solid. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about that, how you approach playing Bach on the guitar.
Yes, sure. So what I here would like to say is that first of all, I'm talking to you from Weimar, just like 100 meters away from where Johann Sebastian Bach was living for 9 years of his life. So it is something very special for me when I'm playing, when I'm doing music of Johann Sebastian Bach. I'm doing it with a lot of respect. And you know, when you're walking here in Weimar through the streets, Vera knows about it. It's really, it's kind of very interesting at the same time, but a very special feeling. It's very interesting because you know that like 300 years ago, Johann Sebastian Bach was walking the same streets there. He got two of his sons here, which were also very famous, later. So Goethe was here, Schiller was here, Franz Liszt was here. So Wagner was coming also to the city. So it's like a city where you can feel this like old, where you can feel the history in the air, let's say it this way. And I also learned a lot about Bach here from my teachers. I was lucky to study here in Weimar, like to hear like information from the first hand. But what I also would like to say here is that you have a lot of musicians, you have a lot of guitarists, violinists, pianists, and so on, that everybody says that he knows exactly how the music by Johann Sebastian Bach should be played, which I think it's, well, let's say this way. I will not say it's wrong, but I don't think that anyone can really say that this is right, or this is right, or this is right. We don't have any recordings from this period, of course. You know, if you play some music by Agustin Barrios Mangore, you have today his very old recordings. You can have a little bit of impression how Agustin Barrios Mangore was playing his music. I love those old recordings. Or if you have, for example, Concerto de Aranjuez by Rodrigo, I have a very first recording of Sainz de la Maza, who recorded this Concerto de Aranjuez for the first time. So you can have like a little impression, and Rodrigo was living also like until 1999. So you can, like Pepe Romero had
Sure. But of course, the music of Bach is already, it's not written for the guitar. So
exactly.
in a way, it's like wrong already when we start. So who cares? You know, you can't, so it doesn't really matter for us.
What I really want to say is that the only source which we have from this period is are the books. So I have several books from this period, for instance, from Son of, I can show you here what I have shortly. So I have some of my favorite books here. For instance, one book from Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach, who was actually born in Weimar here.
Yeah.
So, exactly. Or, for instance, a book by Johann Joachim Quantz, also from these periods. So, and then you have inside the rules about it. So, and then with the one book which I really respect is by pianist Paul Skoda Badura, interpretation. And you have also a lot of things inside which are also from these two books which I showed you. So actually, what am I doing? What I always try to do is some rules which are there in this music by Bach. First of all, to play these rules, to try to play it properly according to these books, according to these rules which I find in these books. And what I also want to say here is that many musicians, I meet it, I see it every time. Many musicians think still that music by Johann Sebastian Bach is just mathematic. You have just to think about 2 + 2 is 4, 4 + 4 is 8, etc. So I think that it's not only about numbers, it's not only about the rules. Of course, it's about the rules, about proportions, but it's also about emotions, which is very important for me. So I'm trying to think sometimes when I have already one interpretation, like how how Johann Sebastian Bach was, for instance, feeling about when he was writing this music. So I'm trying also to put some of emotions in this music, because I think that emotions didn't come just in the 19th century. So it's not.
And how is it when you say the rules in the books? Are there any particular that we could maybe get into? Like you talk about the phrasing rules, about articulation.
Of course. So if you play, of course, if you play, for instance, I can give you. We can talk about this like for hours. I can give you many.
No, but that's really nice, for people to hear what is, because of course there's many books and there are many even opinions, but it's really.
So, for instance, you have one rule.
Like what was it that?
Yeah, you have, for instance, you have one rule. Let's say it this way. You have notes inegal notes, so inegality, for instance, where you have two same notes. For instance, it's just one sample. There are plenty of samples. You have inegal notes, which means I have two 8 notes, and then you have a bow about those two notes. So that, which means they are equal. They are same written on the same way, but the first note is longer and louder. The second note is shorter and with decrescendo. It's softer. So I can pick up the guitar.
Yes, awesome.
For instance, you have it in the thousands, let's say 1001 or 1000.
Talk about the articulation marking, basically.
Exactly. So here, for instance, it's not like. Here you have all the time you have those inegal notes. You have about those notes. If you really look at the violin scores with the original scores, you will see that you have those bows about the notes. So what you have actually to do on this place is you have to play the second note always. So this kind of resolution, you have to play it always shorter and like. So on the end, it sounds like this. You see? So it's like one rule, which is actually written in the books, which we
really useful, basically. It's almost like something you're talking about, something that at that time they wouldn't even have called it a rule. It was almost like it was obvious.
It was obvious, and it was a fashion in this time. And this is
fashion,
what we know. And this is what we know. And this is what I try to do. I'm just following the rules.
And now you're just talking basically about, like, for example, in Bach, you really have those very clear markings, which are kind of like, I mean, on guitar we call them slurs, but in reality they're articulation markings.
Exactly. So in the Baroque music, it's those are articulation marks. We have also to know one another thing, that things like musical terms, which we have from Italian language, like, okay, the tempis, they had already in the Baroque time, but things like ritardando, ritenuto, accelerando, diminuendo, dynamics, piano, forte, mezzo forte, and things like this, they didn't exist in the 17th century when Johann Sebastian Bach was writing his music.
Oh, interesting.
So those terms came in the 18th century.
That's interesting.
Yes. So if you look at the scores in the manuscripts of Johann Sebastian Bach music, you will see that you don't have any like ritardandis or accelerando or any dynamics inside. So the things they were doing there, like they were again following the rules. If you have like one thing which was repeating, for instance, it comes again.
Yeah, like in the beginning of the prelude, for example.
Yes.
The video you made for us.
You have it. You have every time thing which is repeating. I have to.
And that's kind of like a kind of an echo effect, you could say.
Exactly. So this is something what was like a very common thing to do. Like, so you have to split those two notes. So this is also one rule. So you don't play it really. Oh, whatever. I didn't play now for time. So you are tam. So you actually, this is also thing where the singers, for instance, when they are singing, where they are taking the air, so where they are breathing. So you see, you have a lot of actually things which are already written there inside, but we just have to know how to read it properly. Something, for instance, what I learned here in Weimar, what I learned, and what I always wanted to learn, because I also want to say that Johann Sebastian Bach is my favorite composer, is my composer number one for years now, already like for 12 years, 15 years. And my like long-term plan is that I started already with this project. I started to publish already on my YouTube channel some videos. I would like to finish the complete lute works by Johann Sebastian Bach, so from 995 to 1000, yeah, exactly. And then to finish the whole violin works, 1001 to 2006.
Fantastic, yeah.
I have already 1001 and 1004. And then I actually have an idea to do also the whole cello suites one day.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
To open the door, to give the sources, to give the like instructions how to learn, and then everybody should find his own way of interpreting Bach. But we don't have to forget that we have to follow, as I told you, some rules which are in this period, and which actually help us a lot already by creating our own interpretations. I also want to say that I have a lot of I have a lot of videos on my YouTube channel, but my top 5 videos all the time, which people like to watch, are Bach videos.
Interesting.
And people always write me, they like my Bach interpretations, they want my arrangements of Bach. I have already plenty of arrangements of Bach, so people are ordering it. It's not a problem, so what people are always asking me, what is the secret of my Bach interpretations when I do it? But the only thing is I'm following it to the 80%. I'm following the rules which are written in the Urtext, which I'm following.
So what you're talking about, the rules, what you're basically talking about is a kind of a way to understand what they're actually writing in the music. Like, what does it really mean when he puts that? And what does it, what are the things that that is not there, that was understood? Is that what you mean?
Exactly. And as well, you have to know to reach it. You have to know not only the rules of the Baroque music, but you have to also know to be aware of harmony Lehre, say in Germany. So you have to know which harmonies, what is hidden there behind. So, for instance, we are talking now about the prelude number 1, but I will take something which is probably a little bit more complex. This is Adagio, 1001. Okay, so you have actually. You have here resolution. Okay, very beginning. So what we basically have here is like, that's why I'm saying you have to know about the harmony. So which harmonies you have there? You have the tonica. I did it in E minor, so not in G minor as original. I like to play it in E minor. And then you have on the next one dominant 7 with a 4 resoluting to 3. So which has to be, because we have to follow these rules, those rules, which has to be played softer. And then you have again dominant sept, 7th, which is going to tonica. So you cannot play this tonica, for instance.
Right.
You cannot play this resolution louder. Some people do it because they think
like it's a leading note, exactly. Yeah.
no, it's like part of the melody, but actually here is where it ends, and then you think is beginning from this note, but not from this note. Here is one thing going to its end, and here on this D is finishing and then beginning new thing. For instance, so if you a little bit like sit down with the scores and try to analyze it, and if you have a little bit, let's say, background like with harmony later, yeah, it's very important thing. The problem number one, in my opinion, which we guitarists, I think 99 of guitarists have, is that you get one piece to play and you go to YouTube and listen 2 or 3 interpretations and then try just to copy what you hear.
Yeah, that is, it can be a way, you know, it's like you can, you know, perhaps achieve something quickly that way, you know, but of course that's not the real deal, you know, what we really want. Oh no, but that's awesome. So I mean, basically what I understand, at least what you're saying, is also that of course we need to understand how to read figures in the score, but there's so much more to it. It's like, I mean, that is a style, and I think, at least what I think a lot of times when it comes to Baroque music, is that at that time everybody was used to figured bass, right? Just like today, most guitarists, we know our basic chords, all right?
Exactly.
But of course, as soon as you're familiar with figured bass, then all of those things that you're talking about, they kind of almost, you don't even need to talk about them anymore. It's so obvious because you're so used to the figured bass, and these are the tension and the resolutions. But as we are not emerged into that style, you know, we need to kind of study a little bit. We have to, you know, to better, just basically to better understand the material.
Yes, but as we said, in that time, it was like something which, you know, you could hear, for instance, here in Weimar, almost from every house, you know, from people when they were practicing, you could hear like it was a very natural way for them to do it this way.
Wonderful.
Unfortunately, as I said in the beginning, we don't have recordings from this time. You know, we can only think. And another thing is, you know, some things, when I see some things, I don't know how many people were able, at least, to play it by that time. You didn't have so many musicians which were supposed to play some violin partitas on violin. Maybe you had 5 violinists by that time, or not even 5 violinists by that time that were able. Today you have, you know, every kid, you know, some kid 10 years old from Russia or China or I don't know, wherever, who has a like intensive
from Bosnia, maybe.
also, yeah, that has like
yeah,
music school which he visits every day. He can play it, you know, but by that time it was for sure. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I mean, these, it's nice that you're doing the lute suites, but in a way, anyone who ever knew a little bit about lute, they know that you know, you can't play them on the lute either, really. You know, it was like almost fantasy music that, and in a way, I mean, it feels itself at home just as well on the guitar as on the lute, maybe better on the guitar. So it you know, it's wonderful. And because well, it is such a kind of interesting thing about Bach, I think, because, well, you say you get a lot of YouTube views from Bach, and actually I saw recently some numbers about which are the most streamed, you know, composers in classical music genre, and Bach was by far #1. Like,
yeah, I believe
so it's quite interesting, you know. So I think, but saying that, there is some kind of thing about Bach on the guitar. It has a particular, it speaks in a particular way on the guitar, I feel.
On the other side, that you break the lines, that you cannot really do the phrasing. So I'm really very careful when it comes to adding of basses.
Because very interesting. Yeah, this is a
very
great subject.
Very important thing is to much more important thing for me is the phrasing. We still have to be aware of the thing, of the fact that we have to do like 2 voices, 3 voices. We have to control everything with one hand, with the right hand. If you do it on piano, if you do it on cembalo, on harpsichord, right? You have 2 hands. You have one hand for 1 voice or for 2 voices, and you have another hand for 1 voice or 2 voices. Okay. On guitar, we have to do it everything with the right hand. Even if you are the best guitarist in the world, still you have to suffer. Still, you have to sacrifice some things. And this is where I say, okay, it has to be like some limit. Not to do so much, but in the same time to add something, not to play it like in one voice, let's say it this way. So I don't think that my transcription is the best transcription in the world, but probably in 5 years I will still maybe change here something or there something. But yeah, I think it's nice, and many guitarists also like in not really like advanced level can play it and can use it for their daily practicing.
No, I mean, I find this really interesting, and that's one of the charming things about transcriptions is that it's not one way. So it's, I'm always very curious if somebody has made a transcription. I'm always very curious, oh, what did they come up with? Is there something, else out there? And of course, with something like Bach, we're talking about such a large body of work, in terms of even what you're talking about is a fraction of his complete work, of course, but still you're talking about the lute suites, about the cello suites, violin partitas, and you were even mentioning things like keyboard transcriptions. So of course to fully grasp that is a lot, so I think having editions with great fingerings that are easy accessible has a particular value, and in a way we have to accept maybe that, and unless you do something like you where you really do long recordings and things like that, for a lot of people maybe it's not practical really to be that well informed in every aspect. So having the edition is awesome, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess we can learn from other people's edition too. Do you do that sometimes too? Do you look at other editions and steal things? Let's
well, I don't steal things, but sometimes I'm curious how some maybe certain things at certain point some guitarist was thinking, and then I can say, okay, I understand what is behind this logic, but it works or it doesn't work for me. So also we have also to think here about, I had really fantastic guitar teachers, and I here when I was studying, and also I was in so many master classes when I was student. It helped me a lot to develop my own musical way. But I was also thinking always, okay, in this certain point, I got some really nice idea, but it maybe doesn't work for me, for my hands, because we all come with different hands, with different fingers, different sizes. It's very normal about this. So something what works for me will not work probably for my students. So everybody has to find his own solution sometimes. So when you say about this, about comparing, I like to compare sometimes things to see like how this guitarist was thinking. I like to also listen to some recording. But when we are about recordings, what I want to say also, when I start to work on a new piece, I don't like to listen to so many recordings of another guitarist, because I'm afraid that it will influence my interpretation later, and I don't want it. Later, when I'm ready with my interpretation, with my ideas, I like then to see how this guitarist is playing it, how this one is playing it, and then to see. And then sometimes I say, okay, I like this more than how I do it. It makes more sense. Okay, I take it, but not from the very beginning, because nobody wants to see his copy on the stage. Nobody wants to see his copy in the recording, for instance. But what I do and what I always suggest to young guitarists to do is when we are speaking about the big master, about the Bach here, it's talking about that
Big master.
when I try, I like to listen Bach, but like orchestral recordings or on another instrument. So just to see, and what I also like is to listen, like let's say some cantata by Bach or Matthäus Passion or Johannes Passion. So the pieces which are really,
Yes.
I love them, and I like to watch them with the scores in front of me, and it's available to everybody to see how another musicians are phrasing. You can learn from violinists, from cellists, from string instruments, from wind instruments a lot. So when it comes to phrasing, when it comes exactly to respecting those rules. So, and this I'm again trying to put into the guitar.
No, I think that having that bigger picture is like a whole really useful, and sometimes maybe it can be more useful just to listen to others do it and to play it yourself. Sometimes that listening, right? It is so important.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess this is something totally unrelated, but I know that sometimes we young children, they recommend, if they wanted to play better, is to play them more, like say if they're piano students, well then while they eat, you put on some Mozart piano music, or while you drive them to school, and then apparently they can do better at piano. So I think that, that just shows how important the listening is, also for profession also, or for, at this level to sort of, emerge yourself, maybe also to get inspired. I don't know.
Yeah, there's in any case. Yes, sure. I was also listening a lot of, I have a lot of guitar CDs here. I was listening a lot of guitar music, especially when I was young, when I was 10, 11, 12, of course, and I wanted to play like that also one day. But I'm talking now from this point of view. I'm like a professional guitarist, let's say this way. I'm 32. I have already years of study behind me, and I'm afraid to be influenced by some interpretation.
Sure.
I don't think it's bad. It's completely bad, like to listen from time to time to some. But what I find more important here is, as I said, to listen to another musicians, to another instruments, then try to use it on other instruments, on a guitar.
Well, this is awesome stuff. I'm also thinking, you mentioned you're 32, but actually already for many years, you're already a professor in Weimar. So you were sort of, which is also where you were a student first, right?
Exactly.
And then you were sort of a star student, or somehow you, we know your name very well, and you stayed there. I mean, you mentioned before that it's very awesome to just be right there where, where Bach was, for example, and all these other, figures, that's kind of inspiring environment. But did you want to tell us a little more about what you do in Weimar, and what it's like to, is that changing you to be a professor?
Yeah, I really like, I'm teaching a lot at the moment. I'm teaching also, I'm working with the students, and I'm working with children as well a lot. So I have like, I really love to teach. So I love to play, but I cannot really decide if I like more to teach or if I like more to play. Before I liked it, I liked for sure more to play. But at the moment, it's also very interesting for me, because teaching, I'm learning a lot myself. Because then you see some things which you don't see when you are playing, but you see it on your students, on your pupils, and then yeah, you understand then more. You understand better some things which are actually obvious, but probably you would spend years or months of practice on your own, and still maybe you are not really aware that you are doing some mistake. But when you see it on somebody else doing, then you see the things from a different angle, let's say this way. So yeah, I really like to I really like to work with the students, and also I have experience. I'm working with also like I have some private students which are 65 plus.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so it's
That
really
is nice.
like,
Yeah.
really like a huge range of
Mhm.
different levels. Let's say, like from a
So you're
very
truly kind of passionate about
yes,
teaching
really,
and things like that. Do you have any intentions of, you says you're very passionate about teachings. Do you have any intention of sort of sharing that in some way, like a book, or is there any thoughts like that
I
coming to
was
you?
thinking about, when I did many competitions before,
Mm-hmm.
after every competition or after every concert before, I would take always like one A4 paper.
Uh-huh.
And I was always writing like 20, 30 things, which I figured out doing this competition process. So like from how to warm up, how to like what to do one day before, what to do 1 hour before, what to do 5 minutes before going to stage. So I have like a lot of, and I was just collecting those things. And a few days ago, I just found out I was looking into some old papers, and I found out I have like a lot of things which I collected in those years. So I was thinking maybe to write them all down.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading about it, and it was such a thing where I was saying, "Wow, was it me? Did I write this?"
Wow.
So I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
it's like technique. Well, it's very nice that you bring this up, because this obviously a whole other aspect, especially talking about Bach, a whole other aspect is just how difficult it is to play, that we really need to have a high technical demand to be able to play it. And bringing up all those books. I mean, from, yeah, what I hear a little bit is you're saying, well, technique, it's sometimes I think of it as more like a philosophy or something like that, like it's more of a way of solving problems or understanding mechanics of the fingers and so on.
exactly. So for me, it was what I would like to say, especially about Prelude 2007. It's a piece which is, I think, 2.5 minutes long, which is like 3 minutes long. For me, it was in the very beginning. I did it with many students before. I played it with several. I did it with several students, and when I was working with them, as I told you in the beginning, that's why I really love to teach, because I learn things on different way from other point of view. For me, the prelude has 6 parts. So I have the scores now here. I just opened it. I have the scores in front of me. The part number 1 is going bar 1 to 7. Then you are recording this, so you can later check it out. I will send you the scores as well. So the part number 2 is going from bar 8 until bar 14, and then part number 3 is going from 15 to 22. And then you have this kind of cadence. And then in the middle of bar 22, part 4 is starting. And then 29 is where the part 5 is starting. And the 37 is where part number 6 is starting. So what I always suggest is to practice those parts first in the beginning separately. So another aspect for me is one very important thing is anything what you play, but especially when you play music of Johann Sebastian Bach, to split the piece like in those parts. So we all know how it can get nasty on stage sometime when we have a blackout, when we forget something, when we don't know how to continue. So like splitting piece in those like logical, let's say, this is like what I did here is logical for me. Maybe somebody will split it in 8 parts or into 3 parts or 4 parts or whatever. But splitting a one piece in those like smaller parts can help you to practice like efficiently, not to play the piece from the beginning to the end, but to play, let's say today you do number 1 only in the first part, tomorrow you do second part, and you do something else, like you do technical exercises, you play some etudes, you play maybe something by Giuliani or whatever. Or you do 2 parts per day, which is also like more efficiently, and then when you play like from the beginning to the end every time, everything. And then the second thing is, as I mentioned already, if you have a blackout on stage during playing it, you know always which part is next one part coming. So you can, in the worst case, you can jump to the next part. But if you don't know where you are, in which part are you, you are somewhere in the middle of the piece, it can easily happen that you don't know that maybe you, in the worst case, I saw everything in my career. So from people starting again from the beginning, and then they came to the same part, and then they don't know again how to continue. So we all know those things. Or in the same in another case is you don't know where to continue. Maybe you know some place, but maybe this place is again in the back somewhere, so you will come again to the same place where you stopped, and then the same thing will happen.
Like an evil kind of maze that you can't get out. You keep coming back to the same section over and over again. You don't know how to finish the piece.
Yes, exactly. So I think so. One of my advices is to separate. Maybe so to try to do it in this way, as I told you now. Maybe somebody will do it on his own way. Yeah. And so I have here a lot of.
And when you talk about sections, I guess you mainly define those by big cadences, you know, like finishing spots, right?
As well, yes. It can be by cadences, or it can be also that some different pattern. Let's say you have here in this prelude, especially you have during the whole piece 16th notes. Tan tan ti ta ti to ti to tan ta ti ta, or tan 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 ti ta ti to ti ta ta ti ta 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 ta, or tan ti ra ri ra ri ra ra ti ta ta ti ta ti ta ta. You have all during the whole piece. You have the 16th notes. But what it can also be is that you split, that you make like according to some another pattern. Here you have tan tan ti ra ri to ti to tin to ti ra re to ti to, this pattern. Next time you have tan ti ra ri ra scale tan ti ra ri ra ti. For instance, the next part, for instance, which for me here is important, is on the very end you have this chromatic where you can actually just going up from with the final, with the bigger cadence. So yeah, so like those are
things. So it's like really like sections in a you know, I think this is, you know, it's very good that you point this out, because the problem is, because it's music that is somehow continuous, you know, it's rarely a clear cut end. We forget that this music still has very clear sections.
Exactly. Yeah. And also very important for me, very important aspect. Okay, we can play it with metronome. But I know some students which are practicing, let's say 95% of their practicing time, they're practicing only with metronome. And then on the end, they are sounding like metronome.
We need more of those, I think. I think a lot of people out there are being a little bit lazy with the metronome, but that's very inspiring.
Maybe some professional colleagues of mine, which I know, are practicing too much with metronome.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so but you know, sometimes you are going to another extreme direction. Why do I really like this prelude? And why do I like to listen to the cellists? I have a very first recording of this prelude ever made by Pablo Casals. The recording, I think, from 1930s, so almost 100 years ago recording. I have it here. It's so inspiring. It's so nice. And he wrote it. I have also his book here. He wrote it that he found scores in Barcelona somewhere, and nobody knew about this prelude. So he was one of the very first people who started to play. And you can hear how 100 years ago the life was like, it was not so stressful like today, you know. It was everything like easygoing, you know. And they were taking a lot of time, especially, of course, on the cello. You need a lot of time here with the bow to reach all strings and to play everything. But I really like this. I really like his phrasing and how much he time takes for like for certain points things. And on the guitar we have it under, let's say, under the fingers, so we can rush, we can play metronomically, which I really, I'm not a big fan of it. So I really like on the cello how they like when they play it, like even modern like cellists like today we're playing, they always think on a bigger bows, like and how you always hear it from the guitarist. So yeah, this is also one very important aspect from my point of view. So to listen to the cellists, especially those older recordings, and
yeah, I mean, now this is a little bit maybe in a way we could just only tap into this a little bit too advanced, but of course it has to do with you're describing the sort of rhetorical aspect of playing rhetorically and having, you know, because you have different phrase elements and so on. And I think this is something, of course, that is really beautiful, and it couldn't be more appropriate, I guess, in something like a prelude, which is a kind of free sort of setting, and the idea of really being on time, it, you know, wouldn't allow any of those kind of dramatic effect or kind of contrasts, or like you were describing, even as a set basic starting point, we talked about just this, you know, the articulation, the strong soft, but that also not only being in dynamics, you're also talking about this being really also in timing. You literally delay that note a little bit, so you push it out of, I mean, it's a kind of a true
exactly. So to
vibrato.
have this freedom, not to think about Bach as a mathematical thing, but to think it to see it as a musical piece, as a piece of music. You know, what I really like about Bach's music, why it's my favorite composer, is that the music was written, this prelude in particular, it was written in 1720, 1721, so exactly 300 years ago. Still, it sounds somehow fresh. It sounds like, you know, you can do it on your, if you do it on your way, it can really, it can still sound like and of course probably it comes also through that many composers later were doing a lot of like we're copying, you know, what Bach did. And even today we have composed, it's normal, you know, at some certain point possibilities are, let's say, like limited, you know, you don't have you know, you have again to come to something what somebody did some time ago, or so probably for this reason it sounds still today, you know, what he wrote 300 years ago, it sounds somehow fresh, and this is what I really like about
Well, this has been so awesome. And well, you started off a little bit talking about that you live in Weimar, and obviously this is so is this like kind of your place? Do you feel like you really find yourself artistically and in your life sort of, you know?
Yes, I'm here already for 13 years now. I came 2007 here, so 13 and a half. I became officially also, I got a German passport 2015, so I got officially Weimar citizen 2015. Well, at the moment I really enjoy it here. I like to travel. Now it's not possible to travel anymore, but you know, if you come here, Veda was here, she remembers, you have this like horses run here in the city.
Wow.
With how's it called in English, the kutsche, the with a horse car behind.
Oh,
How's it called? And you know, you have this like in the old city sometimes impression, if you would not have cars there, which are unfortunately allowed to drive, you would have a feeling you are in 17th or 18th century.
yeah.
So I really like it. You know, it inspires me to inspire for my interpretations. And as I was traveling a lot before Corona, I really loved to come back. You know, it was not so hard. It was like the life was so like easygoing here. So still, I like it now. During the Corona, is maybe too much like easygoing. I need a little bit, but I guess it's like everywhere at the moment. Everywhere you go. So it's like.
No, that's so cool. I mean, I can really understand that you're there in that kind of environment. How then there's automatically you would just want to play more Bach and more of that.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, thank you so much. It's been super. Thank you.